What's up, everybody? It's your boy Reggie Casual from thecasual.co, and welcome to Unscripted, where we cover anything and everything that has to do with the fashion business in general. Now, we come at it from the angle of street fashion or streetwear, so it's a little bit easier to grasp, but you can still use these techniques in other forms of fashion, whether that's contemporary, avant-garde, or just ready to wear or whatnot. That being said, this is part 2 of production on the costs that you should be considering when developing your collection. All right, so this is not developing your entire brand. That's not the cost of it. This is production. How much should things cost, or just the overview, what you should expect? Because I can't give you definite numbers. Different manufacturers have different prices, and really it's up to you what those costs are. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna truncate in a little bit of time what you should expect when it comes to producing your clothes for your label. So let's go ahead and get into it. Now, anybody who is a student of fashion design or just fashion business or fashion in general knows that creating a label can be a very complicated and convoluted process, especially when it comes to production. There's so many things to think about. You got to think about textiles, you got to think about trims, you got to think about colors, you got to think about patterns, samples, all that good stuff. But this is the reason why we start from streetwear, because what streetwear does is it kind of simplifies the process as you gradually get to that point where these complicated questions need to be answered. But what's great about streetwear is that you can answer some of the basic questions that'll prepare you for the eventual development and just the recreation of your brand when it comes to cut and sew pieces. So for the basis of this video, we're going to use the basis of streetwear, the basic product, and that is the t-shirt. And hopefully this guide will help you in your goal of creating a fully fleshed out brand. All right, so before we get started, there's 3 things that we have to do first when it comes to production. First thing that we got to do is just a mark of business, is that we got to establish what our budget is. How much are you willing to spend? And you can only really know this if you did your initial marketing. How much buzz did you create before you started producing your brand? That way, when you make your actual clothes, you won't be sitting there just hoping that people will buy it. The second thing that you want to do is you want to establish what your base product is. Now, as I said, for the basis of this tutorial or just this video in general, we are using the t-shirt as a base. What is your base product? It is the product that you're probably going to be making the most of within a collection. And the last thing that you need to do is make sure you have those tech packs on hand. Those of you who don't know what a tech pack is, please go right back into production part 1. That video should be popping up on the screen really soon, but make sure you have that tech pack. It's basically a blueprint of each and every individual item in your collection. Now, let's go ahead and get into some questions that you should be asking, or you should concern yourself with when it comes to producing that t-shirt as our base product. So there are a few things that you need to consider when you're talking about the t-shirt. The first thing is the type of tee. Now, there's a lot of questions about what's the best tee, what's the worst tee, what's the cheapest tee. We're not talking about brand, we're talking about the actual makeup of the tee. Decide on what that actually is, because that can determine the price of your t-shirt as well. Definitely understand, what is it going to be made out of? What is your t-shirt going to be made out of? This prepares you to talk about textiles a little bit later. The second thing that you want to know about is what's the color of your tee. Now, everybody knows that a white tee is going to be the cheapest, and colored tees are going to be a little bit more expensive. Why? Because they use dyes. That's basically pretty much it. The next thing is the size of the tee. The size of the tee definitely determines the price as well. Extra large and extra large, the prices usually change in that range. So understand what sizes that you're going to be using ahead of time. Maybe you cater to people who are tall and bigger, and you need bigger t-shirts. That's gonna increase the cost just a little bit. All right, so the next thing that you need to worry about as far as price is concerned is your graphic dynamic. Now, a lot of you out there who are in streetwear are going to be doing a graphic design. And with the graphic design, there are a few things that you need to keep in mind when it comes to that process. Basically, you have the colors of that design. Now, if it's one color, it's going to be a little bit cheaper. If it's 3 colors, that's 3 screens for a typical screen printing shop. Usually they're like, yo, you got 3 screens on that, man. We got to charge for each screen. We got to charge for each color. So that's where that pricing comes in. So you might be asking yourself, well, what if I want to do like a photo-esque picture, like on my shirt? You know what I'm saying? Well, there are different types of printing processes for different types of designs. There's a CMYK process print, there's dye emulsification, there's screen printing, there's heat press, there's digital print. There's so many different types of print processes. They're printing with water-based inks, there's vinyl, like there's so many different types of printing processes, and you need to be mindful of all of those because the price changes depending on what process you use. Other things that can contribute to the cost of your tee are the placement of your graphics. Maybe you want 5 different locations with prints on them. That's definitely going to cost you more. Also, the size of your print can also attribute to the price as well. And that's just a t-shirt. There's so many more questions that you could really be asking, but you're gonna have to boil those over with the manufacturer that you choose. Speaking of which, that's what we're gonna talk about next. Choosing a manufacturer and how to do it. Choosing a manufacturer is all about asking questions and creating a relationship. Remember that, those 2 things, asking questions and creating a relationship. So what questions should we be asking? Now, the very first question that you should be asking a potential manufacturer is, what is their specialty? What is it that they do well? Now, once you get to the cut and sew stage, this matters a little bit more than just the print stage. But in the cut and sew stage, there are different manufacturers that do different things. Some manufacturers do denim, some do women's wear, some do sportswear, some do outerwear, some do anything. Ask them what their specialty is, because if you do that, not only does it inform you, but it lets them know, oh, this person is actually serious about what we're trying to do. This is a potential customer that we could work with. As such, you should be asking your manufacturer as well, what are their capabilities, all right? So what their specialty is different than what their capabilities are. What are they able to do? Some manufacturers or suppliers only print your t-shirt and that's it. They don't do anything else outside of that. But some actually do D-tagging. Some actually do cotton labels for you or taffeta labels for you. Some will do drop shipping for you. Some will just do anything. Some of them bag stuff for you. Some of them tag it for you. A company, a supplier that does a lot of different things might have a higher price, but it's golden. Like, you don't need to do much else except for them to do everything for you. And once you get your product, you're like, I'm done. We're good. Now, the next question that you should be asking is probably the one that you're most interested in, is the minimums. Now, really, you shouldn't be worried about the minimums, because if you did initial marketing, that shouldn't even be an issue. If you did your buzz campaign, it should be an issue. You should already know how many t-shirts you want. But for the premises of this video, you want to know what their minimums are, because you want to know at least how much do I have to buy in order to start an order. Lower minimums means that you're going to be paying a little bit more for each and every shirt. But higher minimums mean you're going to be paying less. However, you're going to have a lot of stock. Finally, you want to ask your manufacturer, what is their stretch capability? Now, what is a stretch capability? A stretch capability is what can they do at their maximum. Now, with a bigger manufacturer, with a bigger supplier, you really don't need to ask this question, because they can do as many as you need them to do. But with a small to mid-sized supplier, you definitely need to ask this question, because a lot of the time they work locally and there's a lot of things, there's a lot of orders that they got to do. So you have to understand what their stretch capabilities are. How much can they do within a given period? And that's basically what you should be doing when it comes to finding out the cost of production. You should be asking questions constantly. Asking these questions about production really prepares you to start asking those questions when it comes to more complicated processes, when it comes to creating your label after the initial base product of a t-shirt. I can't tell you the prices of how much it's going to cost. A lot of people will ask that question, how much does it cost to start my brand? I can't tell you that. It depends on you. Nobody can tell you that. It really is up to you and how many questions you ask. However, there are some tips to consider before you even start picking up that mighty dollar to give to a supplier. Tip number one, learn how to make your own samples. Learn how to screen print, learn how to sew. Now, these 2 things can help you out and go a long way in creating your own samples, so you don't have to bother a manufacturer or a supplier with low minimums. You don't have to ask that question, because basically you can make everything to order. So what you best do is get accounts with some of the t-shirt brands, or the main t-shirt, pre-made t-shirt brands that you want to use. Number 2, create relationships with your manufacturer. Now, this is not about being friendly. This is about repeat business. That's how you create a relationship with a supplier. Repeat business. If you keep coming back, hey, they're going to work harder for you because they know that they need to maintain your business. So they're going to refrain from messing up. They're going to get your stuff out faster. They're going to be more congenial when it comes to you need something a little bit more than normal. And you won't be so mad sometimes when they mess up. So that's it for production, but there's so many more questions to answer. For example, we didn't even cover shipping, the shipping from your manufacturer to you. That costs money. Say if you have 30 shirts and they all cost $9 a piece, well, and it costs $30 to ship to you, well, you have to add $1 on top of every single t-shirt. And so now every t-shirt is $10 to make. So we're gonna talk about all of that, all of those other questions that you need to be answered in the next Unscripted when we cover just your line sheet, doing your marketing for your brand after you have your product, making your lookbook, doing the actual collection in itself, and how much this whole thing should cost, the sales, how much you should be selling a particular item for. We're going to cover all of that in the subsequent weeks, so keep it locked right here for all of your info on that. It's your boy, and keep it casual. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu, and I'll see you guys in a minute. Deuces. I'm out.